Alright, today I thought I would do a little rundown of what I have going on in my basement where I reside. This is how the drum kit is usually set up when I'm not doing a video. You've got some dampening going on. So I've got that, and with the bass muffled in the front a little bit. Sometimes I throw a pillow up against that. Stepping over here, this is where you would find my practice kit, which has been kind of ravaged because I've been using some of the pieces of it for other things, which is not a big deal because for the practice kit I can honestly just buy garbage hardware to replace it, so it won't cost me anything to just re-outfit the whole thing. So like right over there, drum set, right over here, practice drum set. Keep a bunch of spare stuff over here. What you don't always get to see is my collection of guitars. This is an LTD that I did a lot of damage to. One of my top 2 favorite guitars. I personally did all of the, quote, relicking or destroying of this guitar. It's got a custom, this is a specially relicked Dominion, the DiMarzio Dominion Mark Morton pickup in the bridge with a specially aged and relict case. This is a replacement bridge that I put on there with a roller bridge. Kept that stock because that was easy to make all scuffed and nasty and it doesn't really have any effect on anything. Replaced the knobs, took that knob off because obviously we've got a giant gaping hole right here, courtesy of me being a dick. I'm very visual. I wanted it to be a one pickup guitar. I thought that would be fun. I've always loved that concept of having the knob taped down, so I did that. It's got a fun little added cog that I did because I thought it looked neat. But when it came, see those wood showing bits right there and on the side of the neck? Right there. Those odd little bits that they chose. The front had this little eyeball spot and these 3, you can't even hardly see them, 1, 2, 3 little dots underneath the knobs, and that was what they called a distressed guitar, with like this this corner. So like I said, I thought, distressed? No. That's not distressed. I'll distress it. And I did. My number 1 PRS Santana. This is a second series of the PRS Santana SE line. It's made in the awesome Korea factory that makes the best non-American whatever the best friggin' LTD PRS. Chapman guitars are made there. Balaguer does stuff. All these names that are known for making really great products. They're coming from the same Korean factory, and I'm a big fan of that place because I've had some good luck with their instruments. But this PRS is magic. All I've had to do to replace anything on this was PRS has the best knobs in the business, and those are legit PRS knobs. PRS distinctively likes to have their own special covers, which have a nice curve and see the gold screws, and so I got those in the knobs so that we'd be a little more legit. And these are the actual pickups, HFS and what is it, vintage bass or whatever. Pickups for the classic PRS into a Mesa Boogie Mark IV, which right here, that's a recipe for a lot of classic records sounds. So along with those, we may have a few more things. I've got a modified Squire, what is it? It's Squire 51. Everybody buys this guitar and mods it. Mine, I decided to go with a DiMarzio Norton in the bridge, and then one of the quarter pounders in the neck. It's got graphite saddles and Grover tuners. I've got this Epiphone, obviously by the headstock shape. Epiphone SG with, give me some light somehow, a JB in the bridge for a more standard sound, and a little more in that mahogany body Gibson with a JB sound a la Tool that I didn't have on tap before. And then I got a Mighty Mite Mother Bucker put, how can I show this? It is really, really high up close to the strings. And it is a bridge pickup, not a neck pickup, which means that it is much, much louder. So when you flip it to the neck position, it instantly goes into either like a lead boost, you know, or if you're playing it like with like chords, it's like a fuzz tone. Just because it's so freaking aggressive all across the board, just a really banging, angry pickup. I got a few other silly things in the collection. I got my Loog guitars that I built and all that, but I'll quick show one pretty one that's been in the background of a few of mine, which is this fun little Squire jazz bass that I picked up and changed the living bejeebers out of visually. The upgrades include the brass saddles, and those pickups are actual Fender made in Mexico, like Mexico's MIM standard pickups. The metal looks like maple. The knobs are maple. The pickguard is more of a walnut look because I wanted to make it kind of emulate the black of a typical, you know, black on the white, you know. But I went with a wood tone too, which goes great with this maple neck, which honestly, if you look at it, is really quite a beautiful neck. And that. And it's super, super playable. Super playable. Yep. The problem is, for me, that I don't use jazz pickups very often live. I use them in the studio more, but not often live. So my P-Bass, which is currently out of commission, is not being used. So that was the Pearl kit, the practice kit, my two favorite guitars, some other crazy hot rodded guitars, and a hot rodded bass, my Boogie amp. Quick shout out over here, we got my Marshall DSL 15 on top of the Marshall Classic Lead 1960 cab, which you can't You can't mess with that. Also, DSL series. Anyone who's looking for a cheap Marshall, this is where to go. It's a really good tube amp that even the 15 water, which can be switched to 7 watts, even the 15 watter is just ballsy. It's legit. It's got good power tubes and all that. And I'd say that they did a great job at giving you the ability to get what you want out of a Marshall as far as cleans go. With that, uh, they got a certain clean sound. You know, it's not that Fender or Vox super clean. It's not a solid state clean. It's a very specific clean, kind of like my Boogie has a very specific clean, but it's a beautiful clean. The crunch obviously is stellar. What Marshall doesn't do crunch right, at least, you know? Uh, and then where I was surprised is that the DSL actually has a very, very heavy distortion that you can go anywhere from alternative to actually metal. I could I could I could use that if I got like 100 watt, 50 watt something. I could play metal with that. Um, wouldn't be my first choice, but speaking of first choices, if you wanted another tiny amp, we've got the wonderful, I keep wanting to say 5150, but it's a 6505 MH. Shout out to my stupid vape mod. And of course, it is on top of a Marshall cab, which is a 1x12 with a vintage 30. So when I'm recording, I've got the option of the 4x12 with its the KT77s or whatever is the standard over in those, and then I've also got this little box of vintage 30, and that gives me a little bit of room to move around. Mixing the Marshall along with either the 5150 or the Boogie will give you a thicker, cool sound because of the way the mid range works on the Marshalls. Is they have huge, thick mid ranges. There's this Panama extended range right over here, which has on the bottom a AV30, which is aged vintage 30, and on top a 10-inch bass driver. And they're used in conjunction for what is called extended range, so lower tunings. And in the back is a attenuator for either speaker, and you can turn them down or up, down, and make one be louder than the other or whatever. I find this very useful in a live or even recording setting. But I like it live, but because you can take if the sound guy is miking up your vintage 30 on the bottom or something like that, you can turn the attenuation on that down so that they get a slightly lower volume sound for them to work with their microphone. But you got up top that bass driver that you can leave pushing full power, and that kind of will work as your monitor as it be. Pile of stuff over here. We got a little orange micro dark. That's fun to have. I love my Roland Micro Cube, and I do have a tiny Vox that I'm not going to walk over to as far as battery powered fun goes. Although I am very curious about these Boss katanas that I see. I'm kind of curious. Maybe that will be my next battery powered operation. No, it won't, because I found a vape mod that works as a Bluetooth speaker. That will probably be my next guitar speaker. Oh no. What am I doing with my life? Well, thank you for wasting your time with me. As always, it's been a pleasure. I'm a decent human. You gotta give me that. Kawaii Love, y'all. I'm a bunny.